Hello kids and welcome to another one of Emma's Snippets. Now you've got a bit of a scruffy one today because I have had an accident, twisted and sprained my ankle, so I'm semi-sofa bound, so that's why you've got this. But today I wanted to talk to you about having a story and what that story is. Now anyone who knows me knows that I have no time for jargon. I hate jargon. I remember the exact moment I decided I couldn't stand jargon. It's when I was doing my APC. And I was in this meeting and we were talking about the portfolio and the values across the portfolio. And they start talking about this asset or this, sorry, not the asset, the yield on a particular asset being keen. It's keen, or it's so keen, it's so keen. And sitting there thinking like, the bloody hell does that mean? So obviously Googled it, no help. Didn't want to ask because everybody knew what keen meant. And I remember thinking like, why can't we just use English? Okay, there is an English word for that. Like, why are we flapping about? Okay, so I believe quite strongly that jargon's used to control who's in and who's out, etc., etc. And this is the same in coaching. So one of the things you'll do, see, if you follow a lot of people who are coaches or mindset people, there's a lot about what's the story you're telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself? And it sounds like soppy rubbish, right? It sounds like the sort of thing if someone doesn't want to take accountability for themselves might use. But is it? There's something to be said, the idea of what story you're saying to yourself. And the way to think about it is we have confirmation bias, right? The idea being that we collect evidence that backs up what we believe. So we think that the world is the way it is and it affects how we see things. It's not the case. How we see things affects the world, right? So we collect evidence, we collect information, we collect stuff that backs up what we think about the world. So if we hold a story, if we believe something to be true, what we do is we collect evidence through our day that backs that up, for our day, for our week, for our life, etc., in our relationships, in our work, blah, blah, blah. So as an example, a story that I hold about myself and I'm very aware of and I'm trying to work on and I have tried to work on for many years is that I'm lazy. I believe that I am lazy. I believe it intrinsically, right? And it comes out in two ways. Either I go full hog on something, absolute, throw everything at it, kind of can't pull me away from it, and I usually succeed. Like I have got a tenacity that you cannot mess with. If I want something, I'm having it. Or cannot get in gear at all, completely shirk it, get away with it. And I do wonder if maybe I'm a little bit ADHD and it's something I've got to look into because I do have hyper focus or nothing at all. My ability to procrastinate is second to none, right? And then that tells me, well, that's because I'm lazy. That's because I'm lazy. Like today, I'm sitting here, I've got my foot up, my son's having his nap, so I've got an hour and a half. I've got a lot to do around the flat. I'm just looking around the flat. There is a lot to do. But also, you can't rest a foot with a toddler. So I'm like, well, no, sod it. I'm going to spend an hour and a half just having a cup of tea and maybe doing a bit of content on LinkedIn, watch a bit of Netflix. And then the voice is like, you're lazy, you're lazy, you're lazy. I'm not lazy. I'm healing. But that's what the story is telling me. And the problem with that is you collect the evidence that backs it up. And then that becomes your belief system so intrinsically, it impacts how you work, how you relate, how you behave, everything. So it's worth asking yourself, what is your story? What is my story? What is the story I'm telling myself? And yes, that sounds like coachy bullshit. I appreciate that. It's jargony. I appreciate that. But if we see beyond it and we see the intention behind asking ourselves that, then it's worth thinking, okay, let me just run with it. Let me just accept that there's a possibility that this whole what is the story thing has got something in it. And I'm going to ask myself, what is the story I'm telling myself? So those emails that are building up in your inbox and they've gone beyond the number that you're comfortable with and they're making you feel very uncomfortable because you wake up in the morning and you turn on your laptop and you're like, oh, I can't do anything else. All I can do is firefight these emails. And then you send one, you get 3 back. Right, what is the story you're telling yourself about those emails? Is it, if I have more than X amount, I'm shit? Is it, if I have more than X amount, I can't catch back up? Is it, if I have more than X amount, I shouldn't deserve this position in this job and I'll get caught? Is it, well, this just proves that I'm rubbish, really? What is the story you're telling yourself? Am I lazy? Is it that I'm focused on the wrong things? What is the story? There is a story there. And even if you don't act on that story, just knowing what it is you're telling yourself so you can understand the evidence you're collecting is really, really helpful. In all of this mindset stuff, in all of this well-being stuff, most of it comes down to awareness because once you see the thoughts, you can catch them. And then once you can catch them, you can stop them. And then once you stop them, you can rewrite them. Very clever stuff. all neuroscience, blah, blah, blah. But the first is awareness. So ask yourself and allow for the jargon. What is the story I'm telling myself? Hopefully this has been useful. I apologise for the state of me, but hey, look at this. This is authentic, right? This is authentic. Nice to see you. Snippy out. Bye, kids.